4, 3. Hello and welcome to the Steelers Depot live stream here on this Monday, November 6th. I am Alex Kozora. Joining me as always, Dave Bryan, SteelersDepot.com, here for the next hour to answer whatever is on your mind. We'll get the stream started in just a moment. Pittsburgh coming off that Thursday win over the Tennessee Titans, 20-16 to move to 5-3 on the year, and that was important because the AFC North, as you guys can see in the title, is heating up. Dave, as always, thanks for being here. How you doing?
I am doing fantastic on this Monday evening. Got all the all 22 downloaded from the Packers Rams game, and about ready to jump in that here probably within the next 24 hours and all, and get ready to see if the Steelers can beat the Packers on Sunday.
All right, good deal. So if you are new here, Dave and I will answer your questions until 8 p.m. Eastern time. No obligation to do so, but if you want a guarantee of your question being asked and answered, you can send us a super chat and move to the front of the line. If you guys, though, could at least like this stream, would really appreciate that. Bring in more Steelers fans to the conversation. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and get through the questions here. Lumberzack94 will start it off, and he says, "Hey, Dave and Alex, Holcomb injury is all the more painful as it finally felt like we were getting some stability at inside linebacker after too many years. Hopefully his injury is something he can bounce back from. My question is, since Cole is the only inside linebacker with a multi-year contract, would either of you bring back one of or both Quan and Roberts? If so, for how much and for how long? How would a re-signing affect Mark Robinson too? Should note Roberts is on a 2-year deal, Quan on a 1-year deal, so Roberts under contract through next season. But based on what I've seen so far, at least with Quan, yeah, I'm certainly interested in bringing him back. I think he's been a positive presence, locker room, energy. I think he can still run, still a good athlete. So certainly I would entertain that idea, Lumberzack.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't get too expensive, you would have to think if he stays healthy and plays at the level that that Quan has played so far this season. And obviously, you got 9 games left in the season, but I wouldn't imagine he'd be interested in another 1-year veteran benefit contract. But also you probably don't want to break the bank on it, and you have to wonder, is inside linebacker going to be a position this team addresses, let's say, in the first 3 rounds of this next draft? So that's maybe something else to think about when it comes to that. But the way he's played right now, as long as we're not talking getting too expensive, I think you entertain another 1-year deal on him. Maybe a 2-year deal if you can get it split right, where you could potentially cut him after 1 year if you had to. But I think you certainly, up until this point, I think you entertain bringing him back. I think it all depends on cost and obviously how he plays in these final 9 games.
Sure, and it shouldn't cost too much. He's played for the minimum the last 2 years, right? With the Jets last season and Pittsburgh this year. So even though I think the quality of his play has been fine, it may be a bit more, but nothing. And Pittsburgh has hardly any other money to spend, or hardly any other free agents to spend money on. So it should be there if they want to. All right, Luis Cervantes, is there any news on Minka Fitzpatrick? No, not right now. Mike Tomlin will have his press conference tomorrow at noon, and hopefully we'll learn more then. It is kind of interesting, Dave. We've not really heard much about Minka. He did not go on IR this past week, and so that was a positive sign that suggests he won't miss, 4 or more games. But for how severe the injury looked and how important he is, you thought there'd be a report on something, but it's been pretty quiet.
Yeah, I think the best part maybe here is maybe no news is good news, and especially when you circle back to this past Thursday afternoon, the fact that he did not get placed on IR would lead you to believe that they would expect him back, before 4 games, and then obviously you've got a long week here. I mean, there was no way he was going to play, obviously, against the Titans, and you would think it would be a bit of a stretch for him to play against the Packers. But hopefully Mike Tomlin will be asked about it Tuesday. I don't know if you're going to get much of an answer. He didn't give much of an answer on Cameron Hayward. Then he turned around and opened his window right. On him there. So maybe maybe like I said, maybe the best thing here is no news is good news when it comes to him, and we'll just wait and see if Mike Tomlin addresses it on Tuesday. Do you really need him against? I mean, you obviously like to have him for one of the two games upcoming in the division, right? So maybe you can get him back for the game against the Browns. I would. My optimism has me thinking maybe he'll try to give it a go against the Browns, and maybe at latest against the Bengals.
I hope so. Hopefully, Tomlin will be leaving the light on for him. If he does that tomorrow at his Tuesday presser, then that'll be an encouraging sign. If it's a rule out or essentially a rule out, then that's going to maybe tell you about where he sits. So we'll just wait and see what Tomlin has to say. Mike Adesso, our friend back in the live stream, says these fines are really out of control this year. Where does the money go, and do you think the Steelers cover them, especially in Jalen Warren's situation? NFL fines go to charity. I don't know what charity. I'm sure they're split up among multiple of them, but that is where they go, broadly speaking. And while I think any Steeler would be smart to not say this publicly, and I don't think it happens often, given the fact how aggressively Warren has been fined, basically playing for free, I'm betting there are some players behind the scenes picking up that tab.
I mean, obviously the front office can't do it.
Sure,
because it'd be a salary cap. I don't.
You
know.
don't think?
No, I don't think any players are chipping in. I would be surprised if that was the case. You know, I learned not to speak in absolute, but I don't think anybody's saying, here's $40-something thousand, Jalen.
I mean, I think it'd be a pool. I don't know if it'd be one guy, but I don't know. TJ Watt seemed pretty upset about it. I think he can afford something to help him. I don't know. I think it's gotten at this point so egregious. I mean, the guy has literally played for free in 4 total games this season. I think it's ridiculous.
I'll just repeat what I said. I would be surprised if anybody's dipping in their pocket to help them out when it comes to that.
Fair enough. But fines do go to charity, so I can tell you that with a confident answer. Let's see. Kyle Smith says, "Hey Dave, so as you said, you're happy Monday Yins, and so we appreciate you guys being here. Be sure to like the stream. That'll bring more Steeler fans into the chat." EST 1909 ENT says, "I agree Kenny is inaccurate and all, but to compare him to Stroud is not equal. Stroud was the number 2 pick for a reason. Steelers would have to be terrible for a player like Stroud." I assume this goes off the conversation Dave, you and I had on the podcast today, kind of doing a deep dive evaluation into Kenny Pickett, where he's at, mentioned CJ Stroud coming off that grade 5 touchdown performance in that win over Tampa Bay yesterday. What is your response or thought to someone who says you can't even compare Stroud and Pickett because they weren't drafted in the same range?
Well, we weren't comparing them. We were ranking the quarterbacks around the league, But I mean, without a doubt, I mean, look, Stroud only has a small selection of games underneath his belt, but I mean, you got to admit he's been impressive so far, right?
Incredible.
So,
yeah.
I mean, where do you draw the line of where you can compare quarterbacks, round in years and all like that? I mean, Stroud's playing well. There's no two ways about it. And Kenny's not playing as well as Stroud. And I think that's where the conversation ends. I mean, they both were first round draft picks. Obviously one was higher pedigree than the other one. But I mean, just look at what Kenny's, he's got the 20 games. The reason we went down that rabbit hole today is because we've talked quite a while since Kenny was drafted that, it's probably good to give a good 20 games. Now, come the 20 game mark at CJ Stroud, probably need to take a hard look and see where he's at. And look, we've seen quarterbacks come into the league and just light it up at first, and then once defensive coordinators get a good read on them, then some things change. So we're going to have to see if that happens when it comes to Stroud.
Sure, you're right. It is a small sample size, and you want to let seasons play out for Pickett and for Stroud and all these quarterbacks before you can really take a look back and say, okay, here's the body of work, because things change on the fly, game to game, quarter to quarter, half of the season, first half versus second half. I would respond to this comment from EST in 2 different ways. Pickett and Stroud were both considered franchise quarterbacks by their franchise, regardless of the round they were taken or the strength of the quarterback class. Houston declared Stroud is our guy. Pittsburgh declared Pickett is our guy. And so I think in that sense, they can be compared. And again, you can talk about guys that were taken 15th overall or 10th overall, or, Lamar Jackson was his 32nd pick. Can you not compare him to Kenny Pickett because they was mid-round first pick versus late round first pick? I mean, we talk about just those guys early in their careers kind of really showing those moments of brilliance that make you say, okay, this is the guy. Second, I would say, to Dave's point, it doesn't really matter. You're competing against the guys you're competing with regardless of who got drafted where. And if you rank Kenny Pickett among the AFC quarterbacks, he's closer to the bottom than to the top. And, can you win long term if you're playing at that disadvantage? Not impossible, but it's going to be tough to do come playoff time. So that was really the, I think, scope of our conversation today, Dave. Mm-hmm. All right, let's see what we have here. Mike says, has Kenny Pickett gotten better in terms of not bailing in the pocket because of growth or more because of the knee and rib injuries forcing him to avoid contact? I hope it's growth, but it really seems like the latter. Maybe both. I think both could be at play here. Sometimes you're forced into things and you find out, that you can make it work. But I think pocket presence and navigating the pocket is something that can be grown and taught and learned, and something that I think a lot of young quarterbacks struggle with early. Mason Rudolph had that issue early in his career. He improved upon that. So it may be a combination of things, Mike. But regardless, I think Pickett has done a much better job of staying in the pocket, navigating and moving within the pocket, and he's made some plays because of it.
Yeah, we hit on that. It's one of the things that we talked about earlier today on the show, that it does feel like he's made some improvements in that area for sure.
Yeah, so that is certainly one thing that we both praised him for in that conversation today. Let's see, next question comes from our own David O, who says, what will the Steelers announce at 3 p.m. tomorrow? Let me pull up that post here for the site as we talk about it. Dave, what do you think? It's got to be a Color Rush related thing, right?
That's the first thing that popped in my head. Some people, is there some sort of Toy Story thing? Aren't they, isn't it the Nick thing that they're doing, Nickelodeon thing?
Is it? Well, they had that Toy Story game, and was it the Falcons game earlier this year?
Did they?
It was Toy Story-ized. Yeah, I forget the whole circumstance. Yeah, we don't have the post on it yet. But it's got to be Color Rush. Now, you think it might be? I think it's going to be for the Packers game. You think it might be the Patriots game?
I think it might be the Patriots game, but I mean, obviously, it could be because it's a Thursday night game and all like that against the Patriots and all like that, prime time at home, that kind of thing.
They do seem to wear them in prime time, so that may be true rather than a 1:00 game. So
short answer, don't know for sure.
Yeah, but something 3 p.m. and we'll find out by then tomorrow. Jack says, finally caught one at the beginning. Thank you, Jack, for being here. Question for you, Alex and Dave. How good does Darius Rush have to be in order to be a figure for the future like Joey Porter Jr.? So what are you looking for from Darius Rush the rest of the season, Dave?
For him just to continue to get more snaps, first and foremost. I was a bit surprised they used him as much as they did in that game against the Titans, quite honestly. And he moved around quite a bit too, didn't he?
Yeah, he was a slot. He got free safety work late in that game, had that dropped interception. So he got, his dime packages, but he got moved around quite a bit.
I mean, you want to see him, just continue to get some level of snaps, which he got. Like I said, I would have bet you money, if any injury didn't happen, that he wouldn't have got that amount of snaps that he got in that game. And first and foremost, I want to see him continue to get snaps. Let's see, he got 30 snaps in that game. He played in the box 6 snaps. He played slot 18 snaps. He played wide corner 1 snap. And as you mentioned, even some free safety 5 snaps in that. I guess, on top of him getting snaps, if he continues to get these kind of amounts of snaps, is he going to be continue to be moved around? And, how comfortable is he, in these snaps that he gets? Now, I know we have a film room on him up on the site. I have not gone back through specifically and looked at, and focused in on him on the defensive side of the ball to kind of get a feel how he played overall. But I think it's a positive in and of itself that even, Levi Wallace was up for this game. And you dressed all those corners that you did when Minka comes back, how's that going to impact him? Is he going to go back to the inactive list? Time will tell. I just think it's an overall positive that they trusted him enough to put him on the field for 30 snaps in that game.
Sure. I mean, I don't know what their alternatives were. Miles Killebrew, they talked up Killebrew all week, and then they went with Rush. But I think Rush was the better option because he's the better athlete, more natural cover guy. But I think to the question, what does Rush have to show? You said it, Dave. He just got to play. It was his first NFL snaps of his career. He just got to Pittsburgh. He's been on 3 teams this season. Dude's got to just be able to settle in, stabilize, digest the playbook, play some hopefully on special teams potentially, get some defensive snaps in there, just start working to learn and figure out what you really have to work on. So he was kind of a raw guy coming out, had some injuries in college. He's an athletic type of dude, but it's really just about absorbing snaps right now.
Right.
All right, let's see. We got a fellow Alex says,
you broke him down. Weren't you the one that did the breakdown on him?
The scouting report, yeah, I was a big fan of Rush out of South Carolina. I know that Cam Smith got the attention, but I thought Rush could have been a dude, and so I was surprised to see him drop and get cut, but I'm happy he's in Pittsburgh right now. Mm-hmm. Fellow Alex, and we'll get to a super chat here in just a moment, but Alex says, let me scroll back up. So much attention has been on the offense, but the defense is 30th in total yards this year, which is a lower ranking than the Steelers' offense. Why is Teryl Austin not getting more blame? 2 reasons. A couple of reasons. A, the defense has been better than the offense. Yeah, in yards per game, that's not been the case. They've been on the field a lot too. Points per game, though, they are much better. And the name of the game in the NFL is points scored and points allowed. The defense has made splash plays. They've made impact plays. They've allowed a lot of big plays too, but they have made a lot of positive impact plays. And when Matt Canada gets all the heat that he gets, that kind of takes up all the air in the room and allows Teryl Austin to kind of walk scot-free without much thought.
Yeah, I think you put that best there overall. Look, it would be nice to see from a statistical standpoint them not be on the field so much from their own doing here. I mean, they gave up some big third downs even to a guy like Levis, right? In this game, and as you mentioned, one of the biggest reasons probably he's not getting the more heat than what he's getting is the fact that they've been able to keep the score down on that side of the football overall there. So statistically, yes, you would like to see, especially things like their adjusted net yards per passing attempt number come down in line more, which means they're playing well in the passing game. You would like to see them, especially early in games, do a better job of stopping. They seem to cool down a little bit after halftime, don't they?
I'd have to look at the numbers. I mean, they did a good job in the second half against Tennessee. Yeah. You might be right. I mean, it's probably been some give and take.
You got to keep from giving up some of these third downs that they're giving up. Especially to Levis. Some of these recent ones stick out in your mind first and foremost. I think overall, I was worried about Derrick Henry starting to get his legs in the second half of that game because that's a recipe for disaster when you let that guy start running downhill on you. But I mean, for the most part, they held Derrick in check overall, and I think it's hard to pick. Generally they tend to like to pick poisons and stop the poison there. And they kind of went, I guess, twofold at that, saying, look, we want to make sure, we stop the run, and then we're going to take Joey Porter Jr., let him follow around Hopkins, and try to control that poison over there. They're going to need that defense to continue to play good, especially when you get into these games against Cincinnati. Who else they played is going to be a little bit of a
Baltimore
challenge.
Again. I think Seattle's got some weapons, even the offense isn't perfect. Yeah, I think there's some challenges ahead for this team.
Right. You would hope that in these final 9 games are statistically better. Now it doesn't matter if you're statistically better, you're not keeping them out of the end zone. So the same level of keeping them off the scoreboard combined with being statistically better overall. And they're going to play some teams that you would think. I mean, the Packers, I watched the TV version of that obviously yesterday against the Rams. They had 5 explosive plays in that game, and I think 2 of them were runs maybe on the edge, and a couple other ones to the tight end. They didn't look that daunting overall offensively there. So that this it feels like this could be a get right game for them. This one, and what a time to do that ahead of playing the Browns.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So I think that's the answer there on Austin. Got a $5 super chat from Monkey Business who says, has Holcomb been the green dot guy? And if so, who do you guys think will take over those duties? Dave, your thoughts on the green dot question?
Well, I think it's been Holcomb, right?
I believe so. I know it sometimes can shift and change,
and
he's not been 100% snap of the guy, so I imagine someone else has been handling that, but I imagine, I think Holcomb is one of those central hub communicators that Tomlin talks about.
Right. Who's going to get it, Alex?
Quan. I think Quan. I mean, he did that in Tampa. He's going to probably become a true every down type of dude. Minka, potentially, whenever he returns, but my guess it'll be majority Quan.
Yeah, short answer. You will have to wait and see on that. Maybe Mike Tomlin will be asked about it, but I mean, Quan's gonna. They're both going to obviously see a lot of playing time and moving forward there. So yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it's going to be Quan.
I got another super chat, very generous one, $20 from Pierre Miller, realtor in San Antonio. Says, not really a question, just a statement. You're on my bucket list, Alex, to sign one of my terrible towels once I get back up to Latrobe. You and Dave are the best. Love that Porter asked to follow Hopkins around. Pierre, thank you so much for the super chat and the kind words and the autograph. It'll devalue the terrible towel, but I appreciate you saying that all the same. I have the worst signature ever. I really have had that legitimate thought, like I'm going to take a class to get a good signature because I just have this like scribbly 5th grade signature, have not changed it. It is ugly and embarrassing. So I will work on that, and then I will sign that terrible towel, Pierre.
Well, I have a great signature, because I got a little bit of a shake to me, and second, because my penmanship is absolutely horrible. I just never wrote well, period, there. So mine looks hard to read. And isn't that a cool autograph when you can't read it?
Right. And that's why we type. That's why we are definitely
and
online.
I can't even type. I hunt and peck, if you can believe it or not. I never learned how to type.
And as Pierre says, yeah, I love that about Porter, to be like that alpha that just says, hey, coach, I want to take their top guy, not shy away from that. We've talked about today, Pittsburgh, traditionally, it's not traveled their corners, have not done so since like Taylor, essentially. For them to allow Porter to do that, for Porter to have the gumption, let's say, to do that, I think it says a lot about his character and the kid.
Hey, that was another, you talk about Rush getting the snaps that he got. The fact that Porter was allowed to travel like that was another kind of shocking thing in that game against the Titans.
Yeah, it was. And so we'll see if that continues based on the results. It certainly may. Want to just kind of skip ahead here briefly. I think we have a new user to the stream, Nate Lever. I definitely butchered that there, but we'll call him Nate. He was asking where to submit questions right here in the chat, and he did submit one. Says, how much of Anthony McFarland Jr. would you like to see? It'll be minimal. I imagine he'll be the starting kick returner. Go back to that, where he was in week 1 and should do well there. It seemed like they had maybe some sort of 4th down passing package for him in that 49ers game. He caught that one pass on 4th down. So there may be a certain small subsection of plays, but, in the backfield, it's going to be the Najee Harris and Jalen Warren show.
Yeah, and another thing, you don't just want to bring him into the game and then with the flashing red light on his helmet. I would imagine if he, assuming he's active, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with these running backs right now with all of them on there, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of them's going to have to be inactive, you think,
if they all make it to Sunday's game,
right? Because you might need you could still elevate if you wanted to, but I mean, even so, if both of them survive the roster till Sunday, one of them's bound to be inactive. And if Anthony's going to be your kick returner, that might leave Igwe as inactive if he does make it. What was he getting per game before he went down injured? Just 3-4 snaps or something like that. I mean, probably get that and maybe use them out of the backfield once or something like that.
Yeah, it was just the one game, so it's hard to really know what the plan was. And they were had a couple of 4th downs. If you don't have those, maybe he doesn't play at all. So minimal snaps, but kick returner for sure. So thank you, Nate, for asking the question.
How many snaps did he play against the 49ers?
Like 3, I want to say. At least 2. I want to say 3, maybe 4.
5.
5. Okay, what's 5? There you go.
5.
Rob James, I'm hoping 2026 NFL draft. He says that to David O. Yeah, there's a report from the fan that the NFL is looking into the 2026 NFL draft being held in Pittsburgh. I think it's overdue. I think it'd be pretty cool, Dave.
They wouldn't announce that until like a year from now, though, right?
I believe it'll be during the 2024 NFL draft. So next April, I believe they'll announce 2026 location.
Okay, why are we just now learning today about the Packers?
We learned the date of the draft. We knew it's been Green Bay for a while.
Okay.
The date's now cemented.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Look, that'd be cool for Pittsburgh to get, Yeah,
I think it'd be great for the city. I think it's a city that can support it. They're going to come out tens of thousands of people for sure. So it will be a great time. So hopefully that happens, Dave. All right, Kyle Smith, genuine question. How can you say, give me the quarterback who excels in crunch time, but then say Purdy is better than Pickett? Kenny wins the games late, Purdy throws them away and on a stacked roster. This again goes back to the conversation Dave and I had this morning, ranking the quarterbacks on the podcast, and we did praise Pickett for winning games late.
We went out of our way to make sure that we highlighted the fact that he's won games late, and that being a quality of his.
Right. I guess Kyle's saying, how can you say that and still put Brock Purdy above Kenny Pickett?
Well, I mean, how many games has Brock Purdy lost as a starter,
Right. Not many. Recently, he's had those struggles. I think that's where it's coming from. We didn't rank the list solely of who's the most clutch quarterback in the fourth quarter. We said if there's an element to be good at, if you want to pick something, if you can only pick one thing, better be good late than early. But it was not the sole criteria for us ranking that list.
Right. And then, and another thing, Purdy's coming up on, how many starts has Purdy made now? 14, 13?
Sounds about right. He started about, week 7 or so last season.
And he's obviously had a couple of, he's come down off of his high horse. For every game that he had started up until a couple of games ago, he was carrying well over, a 7 adjusted net yards per passing attempt number on there. And obviously the last, Cleveland, obviously was short some weapons in that game. Minnesota was a clunker. And then, trying to remember if I watched how much of the Cincinnati game. Obviously they didn't, they got beat. They've scored 17 points in each of their last 3 games after going 30, 30, 30, 35, 42. So maybe teams have, maybe defensive coordinators have found some kryptonite, but he was without, some of those weapons, specifically against the Browns. Now they were on a bye, in week 9, and they get Jacksonville. So, but overall, it's hard to, outside of these last 3 games, I don't think these last 3 games trump necessarily what he had done up until that point.
I agree. Again, we're looking at body of work, not just what's happened recently. In big picture, Purdy, he benefits from the system and the scheme, no question, the talent, but he has been the better quarterback, I think. All right, want to get to Connor V Super Chat in just 1 second, but our friend Russ Obenstein is here, says we'll do a donation again, guys, but waiting on a new card. Don't worry about that, Russ. No need to, no rush to, but we appreciate you being here and on Twitter, so hope you're doing well, man. Connor V, $5 Super Chat. Thank you, Connor. Says, Dave and Alex, glad I finally caught a live show. Appreciate all you do. Thank you so much. Here's my statement. Time to unleash Mark Robinson. That is kind of maybe the wild card of the inside linebacker situation now that Holcomb is out for the season with Quan Alexander and Landon Roberts. Pittsburgh, I think, really liked having a 3-man rotation at inside linebacker. Is there a way to fit Mark Robinson into that, Dave?
Definitely in anything that you think you're going to get run-related. Short yardage or stuff, goal line type situation, anything that involves him moving downhill. I think he's going to see some level of snaps moving forward. What that looks like, we'll start finding out here against the Packers on Sunday. But you do have more experienced guys, obviously, in Roberts and Quan, and it's going to be hard, even with Holcomb out. It's going to be hard to carve out some volume area of snaps for him. But I think if you get in obvious short yardage situations or goal line situations, maybe that's a way that you can get him on the field. Remember, this is the same Mark Robinson that it was hard to get anything positive come out of the mouth of Teryl Austin
Right.
during the offseason about him, talking about looking forward to 2024 with him. So this is a guy that's probably still learning the finer details of playing the inside linebacker position overall, and specifically, in the NFL. So I think they're going to carve out some snaps for him. It probably is not going to be as many as people would like, and they're probably going to be more run down specific type things, I would think.
I agree. He's certainly a downhill guy. He's very similar to a Landon Roberts, and so that makes it a bit tougher to find ways to get him on the field. I thought Holcomb, Alexander, Roberts all had different and varying skill sets that made them a little more easy to mix and match. But I think they're going to find a way to maybe even rotate just Robinson and Roberts a little bit and play Robinson 10 or so snaps a game just to maybe take some of the workload off of Roberts, keep him a bit fresher, and just get a different guy in there. So probably not. It's not going to be as significant of a rotation as it has been, but I think there'll be some sort of rotation with Robinson that I don't know, third kind of add on to that group.
And the Packers are going to try to run the football first and foremost, you would think.
Yeah, and they got talented running backs and Aaron Jones and a big guy in AJ Dillon. So yeah, you want to be able to stop the run and make Jordan Love beat you. All right, let's see where we had. We have another super chat, or did I miss that? No, I think we got all the super chats. If you guys could like the stream, put out another call out for that and bring more people into the chat, would really appreciate that. But thank you guys for hanging with Dave and myself here for another half hour until the top of the hour. Jonathan Harvey says, I want to ask, can Kenny Pickett overcome his flaws of missing open receivers? Is that a coachable trait? I mean, you have to fix it, obviously. There's no way to work around missing open receivers. That comes down to more of a technique and mechanic thing. And short answer, yes, that probably can be fixed, but it's going to have to get fixed here pretty quickly.
Look, one of the knocks on him right now is his accuracy, and not only in just overall, not just the one throw to George Pickens. Now he has made some nice throws, there's no doubt about it, but he needs to get another 3, 4, 5% better overall in his accuracy. We made sure to highlight, you go back to that throw that he made to Deontay. It wasn't that a third down throw in the game against the Rams on that return route by Deontay. I mean, he put that ball right on it. We've seen Kenny Pickett make tight windows throws. So it's not like he can't do it. We just need to see more of it now, and especially the wide open ones.
Sure, he's made some high level throws. I think downfield he can be accurate. That throw to Deontay against Tennessee, that 32-yarder was a dime, just in the bucket, perfect throw. So he can.
And his back shoulder throws are 9 out of 10 on the money.
Yeah, so there is some level of accuracy, but for a guy that was drafted, I think first and foremost, according to Kevin Colbert and the team, because of his accuracy, you're looking for more out of him. Jack says, another question, do you both view center as the biggest team need? It's up there. I think I'm starting to lean towards corner now being the biggest need if the season were to end today, Dave.
Man, I'd like to have a 10-year center come in via the draft here. They're obviously going to keep evaluating Rush, and you don't know what you worry about Corey Trice and the injuries that he's had within that. So I think if I'll tell you the positions that I'm looking at right now, just put them in any order that you want. Center, corner, and inside linebacker. And I think you can make an argument for this team drafting another wide receiver in the top 4 rounds as well. I think that argument, not first round, probably not second round, but third or fourth round. I think you can make a strong argument for that to be addressed. So those 4 positions, mix and match however you want. As I sit here right now, those would be the ones that I draw out. And look, center and guard for some. We talk about this every year. It seems like come draft time, those positions get pushed down for whatever reason. Overall. So, might you, and Lord knows where the Steelers are going to draft this next draft. Is this an instance where late in the first round where they might be able to get the top center on the board? You would think that you're not going to get a top cornerback on the board right where they pick, but then you turn around and they got Joey Porter Jr.
Right.
at 32nd overall there. Inside linebacker seems to more times than not be a position it gets pushed down a little bit, right? The Steelers usually have pretty decent luck in the second, third, fourth round when it comes to receivers. But from where I sit right now, those 4 positions I named off are in my head, at least right now. And I would like to see them come out if they could get a pedigree center, with maybe one of their first 2 picks.
I agree. And center is still a big need. So many great centers in this franchise's history. Let's go find another. Safety, I would mention as well. Try to find more of a mainstay than this rotation that Pittsburgh has between Casey and Neal, who are not getting any younger. I think receiver is a really sneaky need. A slot receiver for this team. A-Rob, his contract, he's not going to come back under those terms. Could they rework something? Potentially. Calvin Austin, I'm probably lower on Calvin Austin than maybe the global fan base right now. There is a role for him, but I don't think he's that every down kind of slot guy right now. So I think a slot receiver is a pretty hefty need for this team. All right, JJ Skywalker, $5 super chat says, hot take, the Steelers will finish 14-3. He says, no, but seriously, just wanted to say, love the coverage you guys provide. So thank you so much, JJ, for the super chat.
Look, where the way is, the division games are going to be paramount. Not that they aren't anyway, but I mean, if you look at Green Bay, I think everybody listening to this would agree that the Packers is a winnable game at home. The Patriots on a Thursday night at Acrisure, the way the Patriots are playing, Belichick might just tank this thing. Come time that game rolls around. You would think that's a winnable game. The Colts, right? You think that's a winnable game, at least from where we sit here right now. What else is non-division? The Seahawks?
Cardinals.
Seahawks. Oh, the Cardinals. Yeah, the Cardinals. I mean, that's 4 games right there that are not division. That as we sit here right now, you would have to think that are winnable games for the Steelers. So, let's say they win 3 of those 4. That puts them at 8 wins. And if they're going to want to compete for anything, they're going to have to win at least 2 more divisional games, right?
Sure. So if you map that out and say they even just go 2-2 the rest of the way in the North, they go 4-2 in the season in the division, that puts them at 10 wins right there.
I mean, and the way this division, who do Steeler fans need to root for tonight in this game between the Chargers and the Jets? You have to root for the Jets, right?
It's too early for me to begin thinking about that.
The Jets are higher up in the standings, but they are most likely to kind of flounder, I would think, as the season wears on.
Unless Aaron Rodgers returns in Week 16 or something. I believe if the Jets win tonight, they bump out the Bengals in the playoff race.
I believe you're right.
It could go either way. You could probably root for the Jets and just hope they can't sustain, but I don't know.
I mean, when you look at, I'm pulling up the conference right now. I mean, Houston's hanging around. Obviously, they're going to probably have a say in this. Is Vegas going to bounce back enough?
No.
Tennessee, probably not. Let's look at the teams outside the top 7 right now. The Jets, Buffalo's going to have a say in this before it's all said and done. Houston, Indianapolis, probably not. So you got 3 teams outside of the 7 right now and depending on maybe what the Chargers do tonight, Chargers cannot afford to lose this game, I don't think, tonight, because they're 3-4. They'd be 3-5 with a 1-4 conference record. in the AFC, so it really would behoove them to win. So let's say you root for the Jets tonight. The Jets somehow pull this thing off. You're talking about the 7 teams that are in there right now, plus the Jets, Buffalo, and Houston. I mean, 10. Where I'm going with this is, man, you would think 10 wins would get you in the tournament.
I would think so. I mean, I think Pittsburgh will have enough maybe tiebreaker advantage too to help. So it's too early for me to really think about that. You're probably right. Should root for the Jets, and hopefully, if they win, that kind of pushes the Chargers really further out of that playoff picture. So probably the Jets, but I think the last quarter is when I really start entertaining these type of scenarios.
All right, but I mean, from where we sit right now, I mean, if they get 10 wins, however they get them. You'd have to think that the Steelers have a good shot at getting in the tournament with 10 wins.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Definitely enough. With 11.
Sure. Sure, but I think 10 will probably do it. Tim Chase, $5 super chat. He's a good friend of the live stream. Says, need a strong safety and future replacement for Cam in the draft. Your opinion? Yeah, I think strong safety to find a more known and every down guy would be ideal. And replacement for Cam, yeah, I mean, it's something to think about. I think Keanu Benton... he's that nose tackle end, but he's certainly something there that I think will be a fixture of this D-line for years to come. Replacing Cam will be obviously a very, very difficult task.
I think this next draft coming up, we already named off several positions which they could go. We try to find one of them 5th round. What round did the kid out of? They're going to see him this week with the Packers.
Kenny Clark. Or...
No, Brooke. What was the kid that the Dunbar went out to see that we thought they would have interest in, the smaller school kid?
Carl Brooks.
Carl Brooks.
There we go.
Yeah,
I think it was six round pick, I want to say.
Yeah, I think this upcoming draft, maybe you'd look at trying to get a body type fit, with some upside, and then in the 2020, getting my years mixed up here, 25 draft, maybe that's the time that you really look to go high in the draft for because you're able to get those guys on the field a little bit quicker,
Yeah, I mean, it just depends. It depends how much longer Hayward has. He's
I just watched healthy. Brooks yesterday too. He made a couple of plays. He's a guy that the Steelers are going to have to contend with this week.
Yeah, he's a athletic one gap penetrator. It was highly productive at Bowling Green. So good player. All right, let's see. I was going to mention this earlier off the joke hot take super chat. If you want a real hot take, here's one from LV. Says, Steelers...
I see our brother Jeremy Pike in there, huh?
Hey, Jeremy, you here? I didn't see that there in the chat.
Jeremy's he had a couple of notes in there about the Steelers' rush defense. I want to shout out Jeremy. People don't know we added Jeremy Pike to the staff. Oh, how long ago has it been, Alex?
A couple months. Doing a good job for the site.
Yeah, Jeremy's a real benefit to the site. Shout out Jeremy Pike. He added some. I thought I saw some stuff in there. Him talking about second half run stats.
He says,
"Yeah, you got it."
Sure. Just as an FYI regarding the defense, third quarter is the worst quarter for the run defense. They've allowed 6.2 yards per carry and 3 touchdowns. It's a full yard per carry more than the first quarter. So good note there. I know that was the McCaffrey run was third quarter. Was it Jerome Ford run? Third quarter. I don't remember if that one was third quarter. I think it was second half, but good stat pull there from Jeremy. All right, a hot take here for you guys to enjoy that probably cooled off because it was from a little bit ago, but LV says Steelers need to fire all their position coaches and coordinators, defense included, no schemes, no creativity, relying on talent of Watt and Highsmith. Thoughts? No, I'm not going to fire everybody. I don't even know where to begin with that. You sound frustrated, LV, so not going to really entertain that much further, but no, that's not going to happen, nor should it happen.
You're going to see some change, I think, on this coaching staff. Sure. On the offensive side of football, probably less so on the defensive side.
Yes, but not firing everybody, not a literal fire sale there, LV. Jonathan Mason, how much does Kenny's lack of touchdown production concern you? It does. It's not the sale end all. You don't want to box score scout entirely, but there is an aspect of just putting points on the board and results, and throwing touchdown passes is the name of the game for the quarterback position. That's my highbrow analysis there, and it's not really been there for Kenny Pickett. So it's part of that broader pie about this offense just not scoring many points.
It's easier to explain away if you're running it in down there.
Yeah, which is not happening either all that
Right.
frequently.
Right. And we talked a little bit on the podcast about kind of, him in the red zone, small sample size in totality, just for the sheer fact that they haven't been down there as much in the games that Kenny's played in so far. So definitely something to look at in the second half of this season is, split the season in half. Draw the line in the sand right now from what you've seen from Kenny Pickett so far, and then let's see how much he can improve on that in these final 9 games.
Well said, and that goes back to our discussion today. If you missed it, check out Dave and I as we talk about Kenny Pickett and his future during the Monday Terrible podcast.
He got better second half of the season last year. The thing is you would have wished that what you saw in the kind of, how he ended last year, at least statistically, you would have seen, in the first 8 games this year. So, I mean, you expect progression in the second half of the season. You just wish you were progressing at a higher point than he's at right now.
Yeah, you can't start from 0 every single year and then try to progress throughout. At some point, you want to start, getting the ball rolling early as opposed to waiting by week 10 to do it. Afton Fared says, what will be the biggest challenge for the offense against Green Bay? To be honest, Afton, I have not even looked at the Packers defense yet. Depends on Kenny Clark if he is available. He's a force in the middle.
The football.
You think for that secondary with Alexander and company?
Yeah, just in a little bit that I saw yesterday, and I've done some kind of stat scouting on some things on them ahead of downloading the tape and all. Their adjusted net yards per passing attempt number is I just worked out the formula earlier today. Their team defense adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat is 5.49 right now, which is pretty damn good.
And Pickett's adjusted net yards per passing attempts, what, like 5.3, I think?
Is it that high?
It's sad if that's high, but I believe it's 5.28 or 5.3 if I remember my numbers.
We talked about it this morning. Let's see here. For the season, his is 5.28.
Okay,
right.
There you go.
And they have, believe it or not, I had to double check this. They have 20 sacks on the season. They've only allowed 8 passing touchdowns, and they have 5 interceptions on defense there. So throwing the football might be a little bit of a chore against them.
There's a good front. Rashawn Gary's having a good season for them. I think he just get paid, and they just do a long-term deal with Rashawn Gary, I want to say. So he's playing well for them. All right, just 2 super chats just rolling on in. 99 people here in the chat. If we can make it to 100, I would love to see that. So if you guys could, one last call out to like the stream, but we'll go through Tim Chase, $5 super chat. Thank you, Tim. Why do you think Kenny is sailing passes in the last 2 games? Ribs, maybe? Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said about that. Now, I mean, not the Jacksonville game, because when he hurt his ribs, he exited the game, didn't throw another pass. That may be an element of it in the Titans game. He's probably wearing some sort of jacket and just it hurts, so that can mess with your mechanics and throw you off that way. So it's not an excuse, it's an explanation. He played at what he has to be judged by, but that may be a factor there, Tim, on some of the inaccuracies.
Yeah, but I mean, he made throws in that game. He made other nice throws. Some of those out routes to Deontay, the drop in the bucket on that 3rd down. I mean, can you cherry pick him? And blame some on the ribs?
No, yeah, you can't sit there and excuse it all away. I'm not excusing it. I think it's logical that that's going to have an effect on him at certain times. Maybe the way he's motioning on a certain throw, or if he just got hit. I mean, I think it's logical. There's something to be said about that.
I mean, he's making throws in almost every game. It's just we need to see a higher percentage of those throws.
Mm-hmm. The consistency,
accuracy,
and not just 4th quarter hero ball type stuff. All right, Pierre Miller is back. The realtor in San Antonio says agree 99.9% with Pickett on the podcast today. If we make the playoffs and win a playoff game, can you do the same exercise after the season ends? Absolutely, Pierre. I think we should go back and revisit things after 2023 wraps up.
I definitely think that what we talked about on the podcast today after the 20 game mark as a totality of those games, and then look at specifically these final 9 games, and have the same talk just based only on these next 9, because we need to see an improvement in these next 9, right?
Sure. Although I think my evaluation will just come from the entire season together, because it may be hard for me to start trying to pull those apart.
Well, if you make a conscious decision right now to do that,
well, I got to do it for the rest of the quarterbacks too, and I'm not going to watch them enough to probably
true.
accurately separate everything.
Right.
But we'll talk about it though for sure. Mike Adesso, before the season, I thought it was a foregone conclusion on both, but now not sure. Should the Steelers pick up the 5th year on Najee and offer Freiermuth an extension this upcoming offseason? Yeah, I think both are looking far less likely than maybe they once were. Freiermuth, with his down year, probably would not even want to do an extension because his value's at his lowest. And Najee, I'm thinking they're not going to pick up the 5th year option, Dave.
Yeah, look, from where you sit right now, it's hard to justify that. Now, when Freiermuth's got to get back on the field, make some catches in the second half of the season. Here's the thing that a lot of people forget about too is the cash spending element of the NFL. This team's going to have to. They're probably not going to come close to. At least I haven't sat down. I did my initial cap look a couple of weeks ago during the bye week to see how this team sits and all like that. And obviously there's going to be some moves. They're going to have to find a way to create cap space first and foremost when it just comes to the rule of 53. Now that's easy to do when you look at Allen Robinson, the names that we pulled out. They're obviously going to have a decision to make with Larry Ogunjobi, who's played well overall. What are they going to do with Chikwama Okorafor? That's a way to trim, obviously. So just looking at, but obviously too, when you make some of those moves from a cap perspective, it cuts the cash perspective as well too, right?
Right.
Because you're not spending that cash on there. And then also you have this, the 3-year rule where, the 90% of the total amount of cap being spent in cash over a 3-year period. And generally, I think that, and because of moving past, and obviously what are they going to do at the quarterback position and the cash expended on it? Where I'm going with this is, even though they might not spend 100 or even 90% of next year's cap number in cash, they might still have to spend some cash somewhere to help out in the 3-year plan. It's complicated to explain here in an answer late in a Q&A podcast here, but is that where I'm going? Is their hand going to kind of be forced to some degree to spend some cash on some of their own here, i.e. Pat Freiermuth? Now, by no means are you looking top of the market deal with him, but are you looking at a top 10 positionally with him? So might Freiermuth, assuming he can get back on the field and make some plays and put together at least a half a season that would be comparative to his previous 2 full seasons, might that end up with the end result of him getting paid top 10 tight end money because they have to spend the cash? You see?
Sure. I hear what you're saying. Yeah, if they're going to offer a deal that would have been similar to what they would have offered if he would have had if he hadn't gotten hurt and was catching 60 passes this year, then sure, he would do that. But with the injuries, I just wonder
and
his value is low.
Might he get a mulligan though, to some degree?
A mulligan in the sense of what?
We know what he can do, and half of his season was wiped out by injury. Long story short, I still see the likelihood of Freiermuth getting an offseason deal, the probability a lot more related to that than I do Najee getting his 5th-year option picked up.
Fair. We'll watch both, and we'll get our answers during that time. But yeah, I think it's possible, but it just depends if Pittsburgh is. If they're trying to lowball him and get him on the cheap because of the down season, then Freiermuth's gonna shut that down pretty quickly. I just want to have a question or a response here about Nolan Bowers asking about our rating of Kenny Pickett. That was us just kind of, and again, charitably, just kind of going through a quick list, we called him the 23rd best quarterback in football, I believe 13th in the AFC. So that was we're more of a ranking than a rating of Kenny Pickett in his current place in the NFL. And speaking of Nolan, says with a $5 super chat, how disastrous a second half of the season does Kenny need to have for the Steelers to select a quarterback in round 1 of next year's draft? It would have to be pretty bad. And as Dave said on the podcast today, Pittsburgh will not be in a position to get a Drake May or a Caleb Williams or somebody like that. So even the logistics of doing that will be tough to do, even if they wanted to draft a quarterback.
Yeah, I would be. I would be shocked. I mean, it would have to be catastrophic bad to even think about them drafting a quarterback in the first couple of rounds.
Yeah. Now, should they? That's a different discussion. But will they? Which is the question. I think they're going to stick with him.
They're going to be married through to Kenny at least through next season.
Right, at least through 2024. Tim Chase, what about signing Martavis? He's got workouts with the Cowboys and Titans. I think that ship has sailed.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great story. You root for this guy. I mean, but I think his best days are behind him.
I know he was rusty, but he looked pretty cooked in the XFL. I think Matthew Sexton outproduced him in the XFL, which is not a good sign. All right, let's go through a couple of names that maybe we haven't gotten to in the chat. Woods, any idea about the big announcement tomorrow at 3? We'll see. Maybe it feels like Color Rush for some upcoming home game. That's my guess, but we will see. Sebastian, who are your top OC prospects coming off for next year? I've kicked around some names personally, but I'll wait until the offseason and once Canada is officially gone for that to become a talking point.
Yeah, I haven't really even given it much thought.
Let's see. What else do we have here? Any questions? Can Joey Porter's tackling improve? By how much? Sure, it can improve with technique. He's never going to become, I think, a great tackler, but he's got the ability to tackle and tackle well, so sure.
Yeah, and he's got the want to, I think. So there's that. Mm-hmm. You can work with people willing to put their face in the fan.
Right. Knight Rider 16. Do we even know if this coaching staff can develop a quarterback? They never had to with Ben, and the guys they had at quarterback since hasn't really gotten better. I mean, it's, some of these guys didn't work with Ben or work with him long. Mike Sullivan, Matt Canada, etc. I'd have to look at their track record. Sullivan has coached Eli Manning and people like that. So it's a fair question, though, because, this Tomlin came into the franchise with Ben, and this was new for him about finding a new quarterback and molding and developing a new quarterback.
Yeah, you got to have a quarterback, for sure.
Jonathan Harvey, who would be a good mentor for Kenny Pickett to help him grow as a player? It's the quarterback room. It's Mitch Trubisky. It's Mason Rudolph. It's his quarterback's coach, but I mean that's who's out there.
And look, I mean, he's a very mature guy. I don't worry about Kenny putting in the work or anything along those lines. And to hear him talk, he likes the guys that they have in the room right now. But the further he gets along into this, he's going to be the one helping the other guys before too long. We'll see how early. You don't worry about Kenny from a attitude, mental gumption, guts, all the tangibles that you talk about with all that. I don't worry about him. He's a very mature guy and all like that, so.
And he's a worker. Dude works hard.
Right,
so, I'm not worried about that one iota. George, between Alexander, Robertson, Holcomb, if he recovers from the injury well, they all seem to be happy and cheering each other on. Is that trio worth keeping together? Sure. Again, Holcomb under contract, Roberts under contract, Alexander is not. You can bring Alexander back. I don't think it's going to cost that much. So that is possible to keep that group intact.
Yeah. How many times? I mean, it would be somebody that you probably try to get done right around March, right?
Before free agency begins?
Right.
Ideally, sure. I mean, I bet you Alexander has enjoyed his time in Pittsburgh. But money talks, so we'll see. But I think Pittsburgh, again, they're free agents. They don't have many other notable guys to spend money on. They can do it if they want to. I think Tim Chase asked about this. We didn't talk about this. Who's going to be the starting right tackle in Pittsburgh for Sunday? Is it Broderick Jones? Is it a core four? I have no
Man,
idea.
that's a great question. Personally, I think how many times can you take the toothpaste?
Right? Put it back in the Broderick Jones tube.
I wouldn't want to be brushing my teeth with it. You take it out and put it in. That's like use preparation H, right?
Okay. Different taste.
But I think everybody's hope is at this point that it's Broderick Jones.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Okorafor was not benched for poor play, and so he was in Tomlin's doghouse. I don't know what they're going to do. It would not shock me if they went back to Okorafor. I'm almost kind of leaning towards that happening, but I think Broderick Jones has to start somewhere. Left tackle, right tackle. Just start the dude. Play the dude. He's playing well.
Yeah.
We have time for maybe just quickly rapid-fire questions. I want to get through a couple. How much do you trust Mark Robinson? Haven't seen much of him, but I like Robinson against the run, so I want to see him out there a little bit.
I mean, it's still we're talking about a small sample size with him in reality, though.
Sure, very small.
You've seen a lot more than I have of him at training camp.
Yeah, and coverage is still going to be a concern for him. Does Kenny have a sports psychologist? It's Jekyll and Hyde. I don't know. I don't know if that would be helpful, but I don't know if he does or not. I don't know if the team, I assume, has somebody on staff or somebody they could connect him with.
I think Kenny's handling it all great from a mental capacity of it. If anything, maybe sometimes he's pressing a little bit too hard.
Yeah, I think that has improved throughout the season. I think he started the year pressing too much, maybe trying to prove, hey, we are a great offense. I have to show that we're this great unit that everyone's talking us up to be. I don't know, but I think that has calmed down to some degree. Anything else here I can go through really quickly? Favorite Steelers game of all time? I mean, Super Bowls, obviously, maybe it excludes Super Bowls and playoff games. But the Packers and Mike Wallace.
I was just thinking of that because I just pulled up all the data on the Steelers' history against the Packers and that game that came down to the bin to Mike Wallace at the end. That's an easy one to go to just because it's Packers week, right?
Yeah, we'll go with that for Packers week. Last one we'll get to. Any chance the Steelers move Nick Herbig to inside linebacker? Cheers from Brazil. That's from our friend Saloon out there in Brazil. I could maybe see some different 3-outs linebacker packages. Not really more of a full-time move, though, of Herbig inside.
Right.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate the support and the many super chats. You guys had a great turnout and fantastic questions tonight. So you can see an archive version of this on Steelers Depot in just a little bit. Thank you guys for being here. Dave Bryan, as always, thank you for being here as well.
Well, thank you for the great job you do with handling all these questions, and thank you for everybody for attending tonight. And if you get a chance, hop on over to SteelersDepot.com and say hello and read some of the work they do over there. And as I always like to say, stay safe and peace and love.
All right, guys, again, catch a version of this on the site, the archive version in just a little bit. Check out the site, check out the channel for more content on the way. Thank you guys so much for being here and watching and listening, and we'll talk to you soon.